Thank you for staying with us. Global economic activity is experiencing a broad-based and sharper than expected slowdown, with inflation higher than seen in several decades. The cost of living crisis, tightening financial conditions in most regions, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and the lingering COVID-19 pandemic all weighed heavily on the outlook. Global outlook forecast to slow from 6% in 2021 to 3.2% in 2022 and 2.7% in 2023. This is the weakest growth profile since 2001, except for the global financial crisis and the acute phase of the COVID-19 pandemic. And back here in Nigeria, the story is not any different. With a projected 1.8 million barrels per day of crude oil production in 2022 budget, for the 2022 budget, Nigeria's underproduced to the tune of 263 million barrels of commodity between January and November is also one worrisome thing. Well, let's get some analysis from the director and co-founder of Budget, Mr. Seun Onigbinde. He's joining us via Zoom from the United States of America. Thank you so much for your time. Compliments of the season. We really do appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Tolu. It's a pleasure being here today, and my best wishes to everyone across the world in this season. And thank you for inviting me once again.
All right, then. Well, let's start with developments in 2022. Even before 2022, for a country that has hit two recessions and has been able to come out one way or the other, and of course, ballooning budget deficit is also scary now. And the president has come up with a supplementary budget of 819.5 billion naira. Seun, in your thoughts, let's put all of this together. What sort of a 2023 are we going to see for Nigeria with all of these bleak projections that we see?
I mean, it's interesting. We are moving towards an election year. So we also already know that the first 5 of the year, first 5 months of the year, you don't expect any significant capital investment from the federal government as much as you would think. The 2023 budget, even though it's been presented, it will be passed possibly in the next few days. You will still expect that I'm not going to see a significant change that differs from the fundamentals that we have. And the fundamentals are clear. Our revenue position is grossly weak as a country. Then definitely it's something that we have to look forward to. What would the new government that we have in 2020, what would they do differently? There's going to be a different centralization of tax system. Is it going to be about the fact that there's going to be a single database for taxation? We've seen a lot of promise in that in manifesto across all the 3 frontline candidates. So definitely revenue will be on the front bear. And as we can see, the second thing is the subsidy. I mean, in history, this year, when you put that together with last year, we paid over 4 trillion naira in subsidy. So definitely something is going to give way next year. President Muhammadu Buhari said he has signed off a document that subsidy will be removed next year, May. So really, it means he has shifted the burden on the next administration. It seems very easy to say that, but the political economy of removal of fuel subsidy is much more bigger than that. Then we will have to see if there will be courage on the part of the new leaders that will come on board for fuel subsidy removal. So that's the second thing to watch out for, apart from the revenue elements there. The third thing that we would watch out for is inflation. Inflation is biting Nigeria in a hard way. Now we've moved beyond the double-digit relations, the inflation. We are now inflation's in its 20s, so and that needs to be watched significantly, or how that continues to erode value and the impact of all of that. Would CBN go hard as much as possible trying to bring down inflation? I know there have been significant rate increases in the last few times where the MPC has met, but that's not abated the situation, especially when you look at inflation at the food. You have a bag of rice going for around 47,000 naira now. I mean, even 50 to 100,000 is not enough for a common, an average Nigerian to be able to have a Christmas celebration. So food inflation and inflation in the general terms is something that we will have to pay attention. And those seems that's something that will abate soon. Inflation is a very, very stubborn indicator to bring down. Even America battled for it for a long time in the 70s and the 80s. Currently now, the Biden administration has the Inflation Reduction Act of almost around $400 billion that's going to be used to contain inflation by doling out subsidies. So, but we don't have that luxury to do such kind of initiative, but it's something that we'll have to watch. The output of what the U.S. economy comes out with in terms of the inflation tightening and reduction of rate reduction is, or whatever comes out of that, will also have significant impact on capital flows in development markets, which is what Nigeria is also part of. The final thing, if I take a breather, is to talk around the issue of the single exchange rate parity. Every candidate, most of them, Peter Obi or Atiku Abubakar or Bola Tinubu, have spoken about the current divergence between the CBN rate and the federal government and the parallel market rate. The element of corruption and the suboptimal rationing in some sort of way, it's not working. And there's been big conversation around how we need to unify the exchange rate now. Is anybody able to walk the talk? Those are the kind of questions that we have to bring forward post 2020. I think for the half of the earlier part of the year, it's going to be a lame duck situation where the current administration will try to ease itself out. So we might not see significant changes what we have. Or what we might start seeing as we begin, maybe by July, is we start seeing decisive decisions and saying what exactly is the direction of the winner of the 2023 election. There are still other issues around the issues of deficit ballooning. The issue of the 23 trillion naira that President Muhammadu has put forward from National Assembly to be added to the national debt officially is still ongoing. And even at an interest rate of 9%, you're talking about an additional 2 trillion naira in debt servicing cost in the next year or years to come. That will have significant impact even on federal government budgeting and also on fiscal deficit and also on how you are able to have enough revenue to do anything. So it's something to look at, but we might be in a lame duck environment when the election is consummated and a new leader comes in.
Indeed, this is worrisome. In all of this, the central bank, of course, has a role to play. Well, I don't want to ask the common question of that synergy between the fiscal and the monetary side. The monetary side has come up with a lot of initiatives, but we had flooding, which some even say we're yet to get the impact of that on inflation. There's fuel scarcity here in Nigeria, I'm sure you're aware, and there's still queues. That will definitely also impact on our next expected figures of inflation. It seems like increase in rates that the central bank has been doing for some months now, it seems not to be working. So what really initiatives we are yet to see it materialize? What are your thoughts and what do you think can be done at this time? Any form of quick wins at all?
There are no quick wins in Nigeria's situation. We have to really understand that. The first challenge is that we are extremely vulnerable to global shocks. So definitely when things happen around Federal Reserve Bank in the US is raising rates, when the growth is slowing down in China and oil prices are are tanking or even rising, we have there's a significant effect on that. Unfortunately, the upside to increase in oil prices is that we get more revenue. But recently, we have not even been able to get enough revenue from that. So that's another bigger challenge in there because we're not producing as we should. For me, I feel one of the biggest challenge of this government, of the Buhari administration, and throughout the entire 7 years, the lack of synergy between the fiscal authorities and the monetary elements that as advanced by the CBN. For example, when the current change of Naira notes, when that was announced, you hear the finance minister saying that I did not get that information. For me, I don't think the finance minister's approval is needed. I just feel that it's out of courtesy that a person who is significant in the management of the economy of the country needs to at least have an hearing or an understanding of that. You don't expect the finance officer to hear about a change in currency on the pages of newspapers, as she mentioned. But that's the bigger problem. And I think the CBN has done more than enough, more than everyone has done beyond its mandate, because you see that the CBN has taken a significant role of the fiscal authorities. This administration alone has taken a 23 trillion naira overdraft from the CBN, and that's the first problem. How much revenue has even the federal government gotten in the last 7 years? Whether he has received 23 trillion naira from the CBN as overdraft. That's outside of the debts that the federal government has taken from the domestic market and from also the foreign exchange market. Those are the problems. If the CBN is pumping money into the hands of the federal government, money that's not backed by assets. It's only a matter of time before those funds create spiral inflation in the country. It's just basic economics. Or we also have the issues of we are not producing enough crude, we're not producing enough crude, we're not getting enough revenue, enough FX, so we're not even able to defend the currency in any way as much as possible. We're rationing dollars, we're banning certain items. I feel that lack of coordination between the CBN and the Ministry of Finance is one of the biggest woes that our economy faces. There is no reason why CBN is pumping so much money into the hands of the federal government beyond statutory limits that it should have not required some form of fiscal consolidation. I mean, it's just reasonable to say, if this is the chunk of where your expenses is going in, we are giving you that financing to be able to close your deficit and be able to function as a government, because we know you have gone through 2 recessions. We need you to tighten some loopholes and wastages in government. You have not seen things like rationalizing capital cost and saying we are going to only put capital expenditure in the most important places. We have not put it down the conversations on the one-side report and the rationalization of federal government parastatals. We have not looked at the service-wide votes and some opaque investment or the opaque amounts that are in those service-wide votes that could have been much more, that should have been, more efficiently spent. So the CBN just being like a piggy bank to the federal government is one of the key challenges that we have. So if the new administration is coming in, the CBN has to be CBN. A certain dose of independence is necessary. And I think we have seen that down. That if we think that we can spend our way in an haphazard way to solve our problems, it will have other implications. And inflation is there right now. The attrition of our exchange rate value is there right now. And in the midst of all of that, we spend so much trillions of naira. It doesn't still mean that we have been able to tackle unemployment or poverty in any way. So my own view is that next administration has a whole lot of work cut out for it. And it means that the primacy of the fiscal authorities has to come forward again, because it seems that since we can't mobilize domestic revenue or domestic resources, we have just zoned their entire powers into the hands of the CBN, and it's grossly unfortunate.
Well, almost finally, going to the budget now, we expect it to be signed and passed into law anytime from now. Maybe President will also assent to this budget. But as at last year's figure, poverty rate, it's increased by about 35 million. That's what we got from the World Bank. And that is really worrisome. What sort of policies can we also have? I'm talking about inclusive growth now. Growth that will really impact the people. We had the trader money, market money, and all of this in 2015. We know what happened. What's your advice, or what's your take with regards to this, addressing joblessness and inclusiveness?
I feel that one is we have to first solve the political consensus issue. I mean, do the leaders of Nigeria really believe in Nigeria? Are they really committed to changing the trajectory of Nigeria? If you don't have committed leaders, ethical leaders in public office, if the systems that envelopes them is about let everyone take his own share or take what is best for his own people, and it's not about what is most important for the country at large, then definitely no matter whatever prescription we put forward, can't just work. So the political economy of Nigeria's reforms has to be sorted out first. And I know we have a chance to change that trajectory, maybe to some extent, in the next elections. My own advice is Nigerians should look at all of these issues very, very critically and vote wisely. The second thing is that there are some structural issues that have to be resolved about the current country. One, how do we position ourselves to attract investment?
Yes.
Well, we're in a country of years, it's been oil and gas investment that we've attracted significantly. Nigeria has to be in a position to attract non-oil and gas investment, to go into non-oil and gas exports. Once we are able to build a structure where we grow our non-oil and gas exports, either through agriculture, either through low-cost manufacturing, and whatever environment that we find, or through even the service sector, the knowledge economy, then definitely we are now maybe on that trajectory. And there are a lot of things that are in play to make that happen. Infrastructure is there. The public policy element is there. The fact that the CBN, the entry and exit of investment, so that I know that I'm not getting an haircut by the time I want to exit for my investment is there. Those kind of consistencies in policies are critical. But there is no other ways. How do we make Nigeria an attractive investment destination? How do we ensure that the private sector feels comfortable in putting their money down into the country? We've become a country where the uncertainty around our currency has dampened a lot of interest in putting investment down. If I put an investment down at 400, I don't know what it becomes tomorrow. I don't even know if I'm able to get access to that, to repatriate my profits, at that amount. So the making Nigeria a proper investment destination is something we have to put forward. And that starts from us even fixing our political economy. Then the third thing is just about, we need to look at the non-oil sector. It seems there's so much going on in the oil and gas sector. And unfortunately, this moment should have been our moment if we had made conscious and deliberate decisions over the years. And look at the Arab countries or the Gulf countries, they're making a killing. Since this whole Russia-Ukraine problem started, they have made over $300 billion in oil and gas revenues just because of the current prices in the market. Nigeria has not been able to scrap anything significant from all of that, maybe according to the CBN government. So it's very important that if it looks like we are jinxed in our oil and gas environment, maybe we start looking elsewhere. How do we grow our non-oil export base? And maybe also think about gas. How do we stimulate investment for the gas infrastructure and also ensure that we build the key elements like power, like transport, like logistics in there? It's always about the economy and the economy and the economy. And if we put the economy in the right shape, if we have committed and courageous and ethical leaders for that, I'm sure we will have a way forward in a few years to come.
All right, then. Well, wrapping up all of this now, really, we cannot discuss Nigeria's economic issues in even 1 hour. A lot to grapple with. But I'm just looking at all of this, following up with the forex now. Let's wrap up on the forex note. Opening up that market is one argument that many say might work and might not work. What do you think we should really do in that space? I'm also worried about the disparity between the I&E window, the rates, and of course, the rates on the other side. Manufacturers must do their business, and they're not getting effects from CBN.
No, it's a problem. And I think Nigeria has a way of doing things, in a old traditional way. And somehow we are afraid of the new. We are afraid of testing. And it's very, very simple. There is no need for the CBN. If somebody wants to go to school in the UK, or you want to travel, there is no business of the CBN saying that I have to take dollars and give to you to travel out of the country, or I have to take dollars for you to go to the UK to go to school. That is not the business of the CBN. And I know that, and I think we should go back and look at a lot of countries and ask ourselves, how does their exchange rate policy, how does it work? It works through the banks. Simple. It works through the banks. And that's what the CBN, in my own view, should create is a single market. All the banks, everybody plays in that market. If I have dollars in my account, I sell through that market. If I want to buy dollars, I buy through that market. If the CBN feels that the market is going wayward and it's going out of sync in terms of its directions for the economy, and it has the capacity to intervene, the CBN intervenes in that market. It's like an I&E window that is open for all. It's just, there's no other way out of that. But if all of this old CBN has to be involved in every single dollar allocation, it just reeks of the fact that window has left. Now we can do that in the 2011 to 2015 windows. Yes, we were pumping oil at production level, at the right production level. Yes, oil prices were high. Yes, our subsidy numbers were manageable because exchange rate was also very low. But now we're dealing with a different scenario entirely. We are dealing with a different, and the only way out is the CBN, the banks, customers. Everybody comes into a single market, and there will be a rules-based market. If a bank is, because the people that could also sabotage that entire process are the commercial banks, because they can now start allocating dollars for their own interest. If somebody in the banking system is found to have defrauded or has been fraudulent, you make sure that the penalty is very, very harsh. So I don't know how you create a market to say you give a law of discretion, because when you talk about corruption exists in three ways. It exists when there's enormous discretion and the hands of a single individual or a group of people. It happens in opacity, so you don't know who gets even the dollar, who's entitled to get the dollars. And it happens when there are no huge punitive elements. So if all of those things are evident around our exchange rate market, it's very clear that the abuse is going to be happening. we need to take the exchange rate situation back to the banks. The CBN needs to create a single market, and the CBN needs to oversee that market and ensure that whatever is playing out in that market. So what? Maybe we'll get to 600, maybe we'll get to 700, maybe we'll get to 750, but we are already there at this point. Now, if you now decide that there are some critical elements of the country that the fuel prices, because if you look at it properly, if you now say you remove subsidy and I have to import a cargo of fuel, the cargoes of fuel had 750, let's say that's where the rate is, the prices are going to be really, really off the market. But you have a situation where you have Dangote maybe coming on stream. Maybe that could be your way out of that. Or you might even decide about what exactly is the window so I can protect pricing, especially for fuel, that we know that has an outsized effect on inflation metrics. So those are the kind of things you have to be discussing. But anybody, a manufacturer, anybody needs dollars, let them go to the markets, and you can supply that market as you think is effective for the kind of country you want to be. That's always been my position. That's where I want to stand.
Interesting stuff. I'm sure, like I told Prof. Sam Amadi, I said we're going to talk about this because it's a lot of issues surrounding the Nigerian economy. We'll have a part 2 to wrap up this as we set an agenda for whoever becomes Nigeria's next CEO. I must thank you so much. Mr. Seun Onigbinde is the director and co-founder at Budget. Thank you so much, and do enjoy the season and the weather.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure, and my best wishes to your entire team. And
all right, thank you. Thank you so much.